And we're about 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day. Bailey Lipschultz and Katie Greifeld. Romaine Bostick is still in Milan, here to join us, though, in this simulcast.
Getting a few suits or something, some leather
something
goods.
like that. You know, I talked to him yesterday. It looks like he's having a pretty good time. But anyway, that's Carol Massar. Sitting next to her is Tim Stenovec. And Carol, you take a look at this market action. It's ugly out there, and it looks like the S&P 500, we're going to finish just around the lows of the session.
Yeah, you know, it is ugly. It's a different tone, right, across the board. But if you're something like some of the logistical stocks, take a name like C.H. Robinson, man, it's down about 14%. That AI scare trade continues to make its way through different sectors of the market as everybody tries to assess what will be the impact of AI ultimately. And we've seen it go through like 4 or 5 sectors already.
Yeah, well, Bitcoin not a safe haven today, down another 3.5%. We thought 70,000, 69,000, 68,000 is kind of where things would go. Nope, 65,380, Bailey, is where Bitcoin is today.
Yeah, under pressure. And we're not even seeing investors flock to small caps or even looking at that S&P equal weighted index, which had been closing at a record high seemingly the last few days. So pretty much everything under the sun under a bit of pressure.
Well, they're finding some comfort when it comes to the U.S. bond market, at least. You are seeing treasuries act as a hedge here, even as gold, which really has been, a source of reliability when it comes to its haven properties, under pressure today. But bonds, back in the spotlight.
Yeah, good point. We've got gold futures right now, Katie, down about 3.2%.
All right, we're taking a look at the close rate now. The S&P 500 with 7 seconds ago. Looks like we'll finish about 1.6% lower on the day. A lot of that pain, a lot of that weight coming from tech, of course, as that AI scare trade continues. You can see the NASDAQ finishing about 2% lower. The Dow Jones, I'll mention it, it's down about 1.3%. And as Billy mentioned, you take a look at the small cap space as well, as measured by the Russell 2000. Certainly not outperforming today, down about 2% as well, Carol.
All right, taking a look at the S&P 500, guys. Most names lower, 343 to the downside, but you do have some gainers, about 160 names actually gaining ground on this Thursday.
Yeah, looking at some of the underperformance, information technologies, energy, financials. We've been seeing it last week, software. This week, financials, as you mentioned, Carol, logistic companies apparently are going to lose out to AI. I still don't understand how that's going to actually come to fruition, but sell first, ask questions later seems to be the rule of the road.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, some unusual names, I feel like, for my gainers. Going to go to Viking Therapeutics. This went up as much as 20% intraday at its high, finishing with a gain of just shy of 7%. A biotech firm that said it plans to advance its oral obesity drug to phase 3 in the third quarter of this year. The stock, though, still under pressure this year, down about 12% with 23% of the float short, Katie.
All right, well, the earnings parade is starting. We kick off with Expedia earnings coming through. Fourth quarter adjusted EPS coming in at $3.78. That is ahead of estimates of $3.37 here. Fourth quarter adjusted EBITDA also coming in ahead of expectations, $848 million. That is healthily above of estimates of $758.9 million. When it comes to gross bookings for 2026, the estimate there, the forecast is that gross bookings will come in between $127 billion to $129 billion. That is ahead of the estimate of $127.17 billion. You can see the shares currently higher in the after-hours trade, Tim.
All right, well, let's take a look at what's going on with Roku. Let's start with the outlook for Roku. The company sees net revenue for 2026 coming in above estimates, $5.5 billion. Estimates were for $5.34 billion. Roku sees 2026 adjusted EBITDA at $635 million. That came in above estimates. Shares in the after hours up by 7.3%. Taking a look back, or rather still looking forward, at least for the fourth quarter, adjusted EBITDA coming in at $130 million. That's a beat. First quarter gross profit, $530 million for the outlook there. That is a beat. If we do look back, the company did beat on fourth quarter earnings per share too, coming in at 53 cents. That's a beat over estimates of 28 cents. Shares up 5.5%, 8.5%, 9% in the after hours.
All right, it's a stock on the move, to say the least. Hey, let's go to AMAT, Applied Materials, also out with its results. We see this stock also big bump to the upside, up 8.5% here in the aftermarket. Let's go. First quarter adjusted EPS, $2.38 a share. Folks, that's 17 cents better than what the street was expecting. First quarter net sales for Applied Materials, $7.01 billion. That, too, is above the street estimate of $6.86 billion. So again, this one bouncing in the aftermarket. Keep in mind, its biggest customer, Taiwan Semi, but Intel, there's everybody who's anybody in the semi space are customers. This stock, too, is up about 30% year to date here in 2026, Bailey.
Yeah, looking at Wynn Resorts, under pressure right now, down about 3.5%. Adjusted EPS for the fourth quarter, $1.17. Grossly missing estimates for $1.50, though. The operating revenue at $1.87 billion did beat estimates for $1.85 billion. Las Vegas operating revenue about $688 million, above estimates for $667 million. This is a stock that year to date was down about 10%, so it does seem like investors are continuing to dump shares under pressure. Again, want to call out that options were pricing in a move of about 6.2%. So interesting to see what happens on this call, Katie.
Also, let's take a look at Airbnb. A red headline on the Bloomberg terminal for their first quarter revenue outlook. That's seen between $2.59 billion to $2.63 billion. The estimate had been for $2.54 billion. You can see, though, that shares are dropping right now. You take a look at the look back. The fourth quarter gross booking value came in at $20.4 billion. That is ahead of expectations, about $19.5 billion. Their total costs and expenses, though, came in the fourth quarter a little bit higher than expected, $2.51 billion. The estimate had been for $2.36 billion. But you can see shares, even with them forecasting revenue ahead of expectations for the first quarter, down about 5% after hours currently.
I'm looking at shares of Rivian. They're surging up more than 8.8% in the after hours. The company out with its latest results. Fourth quarter revenue did beat estimates. The company sees deliveries of R2 electric midsize SUVs in the second quarter. The company sees 2026 vehicles delivered between 62,000 to 67,000 for 2026. The estimate was for 63,402. Fourth quarter revenue coming above estimates slightly at $1.29 billion. Fourth quarter vehicles delivered came in slightly below estimates at 9,745. The company sees 2026 adjusted EBITDA loss of $1.8 to $2.1 billion. The estimate was for a loss of $1.8 billion. Fourth quarter adjusted loss per share coming in at 54 cents. That is beating estimates of a loss per share at 69 cents. The stock is higher by 10.2%.
All right,
bouncing around, but in the green.
Ooh, sorry. Let's go to Coinbase. I jumping the gun here. Let's get to it, because this company coming out with its earnings. Let's go to fourth quarter total revenue. A little bit better than what the street was expecting, $1.8 billion. Actually, a little light, forgive me. The estimate is $1.83 billion. The company also commenting, fourth quarter transaction revenue, $983 million. That, too, is light. The street estimate was $1.02 billion. The stock is down about 1.3% in the aftermarket. And fourth quarter subscription services revenue, $727.4 million. And that, again, is below expectations. The street was looking for $748.3 million. So, again, stock is right now down about 3.4% in the aftermarket. Keep in mind, this one has been under a lot of pressure. Yeah. We get it. Anything in the crypto space, it's about 40% down in 2026 and taking another leg down here in the aftermarket, down more than 2%.
Yeah, looking at a lot of weakness, selling pressure in Pinterest right now, down more than 10%. Looking at fourth quarter adjusted EBITDA, $541.5 million, missing estimates of $550.4, saying that they see 1Q revenue 11 to 14%. Also want to say that they're seeing and forecasting first quarter adjusted EBITDA $166 million to $186 million. Big miss because estimates were for $205 million. This is a stock that year to date, guys, is already down 28%. So a lot of selling going on in Pinterest, and what really is pretty much a miss across the board, Katie.
I do want to quickly take a look at Instacart, those earnings coming out here. Let me just pull them up on my Bloomberg terminal. Fourth quarter gross transaction value pretty much coming in ahead of expectations, $9.85 billion. The estimate had been for $9.51 billion. Their orders in the fourth quarter also coming in ahead of estimates. As to, actually, their advertising and other revenue came in below expectations. But the big takeaway here is that when it comes to first quarter adjusted EBITDA, that forecast beat estimates. You can see that reflected in the shares right now, which are currently higher by nearly 7%.
All right, a lot of stocks on the move in the aftermarket. I'm just going to go back to Applied Materials. It's up more than 10% here after trading in the aftermarket.